Another one of these Friday night lives. Hopefully I'm not too far out of time. Sit down and just get myself comfortable first. Staying here for Lowe's. Now hopefully I am in the group, because it doesn't actually say whether or not I'm in the group. I may miss some of your comments because I'm on the phone and the comments whiz past quite quickly. On Wednesday I announced that the live today would be answering questions. Now we had the suggestion of discussing gouges and VTools for beginners, so that's exactly what we're doing. Where to start? Now that's a really good question. G'day Tammy. Can you just confirm I'm in beginners woodcarvers and not on my own page? Thanks. I'm always afraid of that, always. And I've got company out here, which is going to make me even more self-conscious than I am when I haven't got company. G'day John. Yeah, so gouges, VTools, when to use them, when do beginners decide that knives aren't enough or that they want to expand. G'day Brett, thank you. I kind of got that by who was turning up. Everybody on my friend list, I might add. Yeah, so the discussion about VTools and gouges and when do beginners start using them, and it was a good question. It made me think, because I only bought my knives, the first set of knives, not that I bought more than one set, in October last year. So I actually haven't been using knives and gouges for that long. G'day Nay. So I haven't been using knives and gouges for that long now. I bought the knives and I bought a triple pack where I had a roughing knife, a cutting knife and the detailing knife. I did a spoon, one of the earlier challenges and how they relate to the VTools and gouges stuff. Yes, I'm doing well, thank you, Corey. And g'day to see you. Yeah, so I bought 3 knives and then I did a spoon, and while I was doing the spoon I struggled. It took me hours and hours and hours to do it just with a knife. So I realised then that I'd made a bit of an error in buying the knife set when the KN 600 would have given me the cutting knife, the detailing knife and a V-tool and a gouge. Now had I have known, I would have gone straight for the multi-set rather than the 3 knife set. The cutting knife or the roughing knife that get used very rarely. I generally tend to use the detailing knife of the flex cut set. Now I've gone over to a heavy detailing knife and that suits me a lot better. I'll disappear just for a second, but not for long. I politely smoke and you don't see me. Now, what I do for the time being is this is my workshop. Because I work inside, I'm organising my computer room so that my computer room and the carving is covered. I can do both in there. I can maintain the feed. I can maintain the group through the feed, and I can sit and carve, which I do a lot. In the bowl I haven't got much. I'll show you what I've got in the bowl. There we go. My bowl has got my knife, my glove and a bunch of faces that I'm still working on. Most of them, I think there's 3 or 4 that I haven't got the baseline of the face. I've got a few of them up on a display unit, but that's in a different room, so I can't, without walking you backwards and forwards, I can't access that. Now, I cheated. I found that because I was coming inside and outside, I want to protect my tools. I don't want them damaged. We did the wooden covers, the little silver bit is magnets, so that I can hang that up, and the magnet goes right the way through, so when I put that on I only have to line it up and it just jumps on. So, good day from South Australia, James. So yes, so the covers, so that we protect our blades, we don't cut ourselves. It's a good idea. I saw somebody else this week use some plastic tubing, which is more than adequate. I prefer the more creative side of things. I much preferred that we have a photo album that's dedicated to the challenge of blade covers. That was fun. It was fun to actually do something practical that didn't have to be overly elaborate, and also protected the blades, so it's a good thing. I'm not letting this get too cold this morning. Now, what I do for the time being is I've got all of my, I don't know if you can, how well you can see that, but I've got my tools in tubes in a bucket, which works, but when I want a gouge, I generally pull 4 out before I find the one I need. But for the time being, that's okay. At least all of my tools are together and they're safe and not lost. Now, I haven't got all of the set in here. I do have the flex cut kit missing. I haven't got that in there today, but now gouges. Well, it's a really good question. When does a beginner start using them? Well, because I realised doing the spoon I needed something to scoop out wood. So the knife's brilliant for cutting the external, and it's okay to be able to go in, do stop cuts, and cut into wood, but it doesn't dish it out. It's a very straight cut. Knives are straight, of course, so we have the gouges. There's a whole slew of how... G'day, David. Hello, Nancy. Yeah, there's a set of rules that basically go with gouges. Now, gouges are chisels. They just happen to be dipped. The carpenter's chisel is a number 1 on the scale of gouges, gouges and chisels. A V-tool is kind of 2 chisels put together. There was mention about how do you sharpen them. In our files, Franklin did a fairly comprehensive stropping file where he's got 2 of the flex cut videos of how to maintain flex cut tools. Now, I know that it's a generalization. Flex cut probably are the world's biggest, most known carving tool manufacturer. Yes, they are pressed steel, so it's not. I've just got a replacement for a broken small U gouge, a micro gouge, and the one I got the first time I used it, there was a chip out of it. Now, I was very careful. I got in touch with FlexCut. They were kind enough to replace it. The next one I got, I used that one yesterday on a piece of English lime. G'day Ned. I only used it for briefly. I was doing hairlines. I wasn't digging particularly, and it wasn't working right. So I looked, and sure enough, it broke. It's got a little chip out of it as well. So I've got 2 micro gouges now to learn how to sharpen and replace the fact that they're chipped. Now, there was a write-up that FlexCut got a bad batch of steel, and that's why they'll happily replace any faulty tool, which I bought them here and they replaced them from the States. So good customer service. I'm not sure. I will get in touch with them again and ask them their advice. The fact that I have 2 of them, it kind of looks like it was me. And maybe it was. Maybe I was a little heavy-handed with them. I'm not overly familiar with that scale. I haven't used them very much. Basically, because the first one was broken, and then the second one was broken yesterday. Okay, so when does a person use a gouge? Well, when you've got to do, okay, if you were going to do relief work, straight away that jumps to mind. That imagine doing an intricate dugout. You're not going to be able to, no, I said that rather quickly, didn't I, Sarah? The flex cuts are adequate, they're sharp, they're really good, they're useful they're very good for beginners. If you enjoy the hobby, then files are probably one of the most expensive of the lot. and the files are much better. I've been buying file files um, rather than expanding on the flex cut set. Yes, they're more expensive. I can buy for 3 of these. I can buy a multi-set of flex cuts. They're really they're really handy. Having the interchangeable blades, that's kind of a useful thing. So there's pros and cons. I don't mind the flex cuts. I like the flex cut knives. I do use the gouges. I love their stropping. That thing. I keep it in the box that I bought it in because it keeps crap away from the thing. Very, very handy. Now, if you go to the files and you find stropping and some other stuff, there is a file that Franklin did for us that's a very, very comprehensive file. The 2 little clips I looked on there today, and they show you more than adequately how to strop gouges. They suggest that they don't hit it with stones, but John said it best when he said the best way to start an argument in a group about wood carvers is to ask sharpening techniques. People develop their own styles. You use a knife. If one of you used a knife and you're left-handed, yep, you did make the correct investment. Fortunately, you enjoy doing carving, and if I remember rightly, you do wonderful horses for carousels. So yeah, if you're serious about it, then files. Anytime you watch any of the good guys or the guys on on YouTube, generally speaking, they've got files there. There are a few other sets that are, let's say, not as well known. I can't name. Ronson, I think, was one of the names I saw that have a good range. There are, because it's an expanding. It's actually these groups are showing that with 14,000 people in 12 months. The interest in carving. Yeah, cool. You can imagine with everybody, it's hard to remember names and associations. And looking at a phone, I can barely see the display picture from here. But hey, look, those carousel horses, wicked lovely. Anyway, getting back to the gouges and things. So files, there are a few other brands, but files seem to be the way to go. Now, when do we use them? Okay, well, relief, that tends to require gouges. When you're, I've got my glove here, safety first always. Oops. Gouges come in a whole range of different sizes, and sweeps, it's called, is the dip in it. And when you look at mine, unfortunately for you Americans, is metric. So that's an 810, and that's the full-sized file. Now I've gone for the little set that suit me a lot better. They are smaller, as you can see. They're actually quite a bit smaller. Turn it round, Colin. It's hard to do things in reverse. They're a mini size, so they have a designation on them as a D. Now that's a D11-1, so that's a V tool, and it's 1 millimeter. Now this is where it's going to get a little confusing, because I can't think. I mean, a 16th, 1/32. I haven't done the fractions, and I haven't used imperial for decades. I did learn them when I was much younger, but living in Australia, we really don't use the imperial system very often. Okay, when do you know when a gouge is dull, needs to be sharpened? Will it show anything on the wood? When they start to blunt, you can tell. You actually, instead of cutting cleanly, you get a little bit of a mess. If you're going in the correct way with the grain, they won't cut as well, and it takes a lot more effort. If you're having to put a lot more effort, then they need sharpening. Now, all of mine are bought sharp, so I've maintained a little bit of stropping, but then it's relative to how much you use them. If you use them a lot and say you're using them on oak, you're going to have to sharpen them fairly regularly. But if you're using basswood, well, you can actually get by for quite some time before it starts to dull. Is okay, we can use Google. Yes, look, Google is there. We linked to a few things. I was thinking about, I was asked if I could show how I would sharpen them, and there's a lot better, more qualified people on YouTube that have done it. There's a lot more that aren't, and we do have people in the group that use them on a regular basis, so a question on the feed will often get an answer from somebody who knows the answers. Now, V-tools, gouges. V-tools basically, as described, is two chisels that meet at a point. If you sharpen one side and then sharpen the other side, or you're stropping them, the point is basically going to take care of itself if you do the sides flat. I saw on the Flex Cut one today that they have an angle of 15 degrees for their bezels. Now I don't know if that's standard across the board or whether or not that's just Flex Cut. I haven't checked into that. The gouges, excuse me a second. I hate sculling cold coffee. Yeah, so I've got a blackboard behind. We're gonna look at all the mess in my yard. I wish I'd released that a little bit more. Okay, let's get the blackboard on. Okay, there's me blackboard and a whole lot of mess. Feeling the cut as well as looking at the cut it makes, you can actually see the marks from a dull or damaged blade. Yes, from a damaged blade you'll see that really quickly because it will leave a track. Smooth, almost polished surface. Yes. Well done, Brett. Okay, now let's just go down a little bit. Now, on that blackboard, I've got a reminder for me for a normal, regular carpenter's chisel of the bevels. And it's all about the bevels. That's the key point. And just before I start going into a little bit more into detail, I bought a set from Flex Cut that you can see there. Now these are, I got a good deal on these because they weren't selling very many of them, so they did a special. Now these are skewed gouges, nice pointy bit on the corner to get into the fine and tight areas. And there you can see the nice bevel. I love these. These I find are so useful. I have adapted to using them more than I've adapted to using the straight gouges, but that's a personal preference of my own. That was a good set to buy. I bought that. That was the first set. In fact, I had skewed gouges before I had normal conventional gouges. Now, what we've got is when you buy a carpenter's chisel, it's straight. That's a number one on the scale of sweeps and gouges. Now, when you have a slight dip like that, you'll go from 2, and the scale goes up to 12, I think, and then in 12 you're looking at U gouges, and a 12 would be, that would be a 10, 11 or a 12. 11 or a 12. Can that be seen? Yes, that can be seen. Okay. So that would be a U gouge. That'd be a U gouge. Now the scale is a slight more of a sweep each time. So as you go 5, 6, 7, 8, and I haven't given myself enough room because I'm not used to drawing on a blackboard. Those sweeps get deeper and deeper and deeper. So I'll just get one of the chisels. Now I apologise for the fact that mine are in millimetres and the imperial side. So 10 mil is 3/8. I know that. So that's got an 8 by 10 number on it. Now that means that an 8/10 Now, an 8/10 means that that is a sweep of 8, I think it is, and it's a 10mm. So that would be a 3/8 by an 8. And if you look at the, this is not the D, this is the full size one. As you can see, that's got a fairly deep, let's get it into the light, it's actually got a fairly deep, and you can see that it's about 3/8 wide, and an 8 sweep. So that's how they standardised. I think it was Sheffield Steel were the ones that standardised it, so that people that were buying gouges on a regular basis would get the right size when they need it. The D, as I said, defines little. G'day, Gail. Right, okay. So these are the sweeps. These are called sweeps. Then, of course, you've got 25mm or an inch, and you would have in front of that you would have whichever sweep number. So that now gouges. I haven't planned to do this overly. I've not thought about it too much now. When using a gouge, you've got, of course, you can dig out. That's as a standard. I can find the chart for this. Let's come back round here. I don't need the blackboard anymore, and I want to be more comfortable next to my coffee. So there we've got the sweeps and the sizes on the handles. I intend to actually burn them on the top so that I can see them when they're, if I've got them in a bucket. You'll see in the next coming weeks. I'm organising my computer room, carving room. If I need to do any Dremel or sanding, then I will be doing that out in the shed. But the actual carving and the chips and things I can deal with inside. My bench is good. I'm getting there by not being so much on the feed. G'day, Laurie. Because I'm not on the feed as much as I previously was. That's giving me time to organise some stuff up in my home environment. I was very lucky. I don't know. I've got a brag behind the bucket there on the floor. I scored those logs this week, and the sack truck's there, and I even had two police cars come past and look at me at night time as I was picking them up. It was quite interesting. But anyway, so yes, I'll be able to show more. I will have my tools set up so that they're easy within reach. In the I'll have the chisel set up so that I can use them, and the gouges set up so that I can use them now. I've been a naughty boy. I've spent I got $150 worth of Christmas birthday presents, which I used to buy gouges. I bought a little set. I've seen somebody in the group use these. I thought, oh, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'd try some of these out. That one was $45, I think it was. And the $45, oh, it was an awesome score. That was about 45 Australian dollars, so they're a relatively cheap set. They are much smaller. Let me get one of them out. When you look at the size of that, so that's a nice small, oh, hang on, let's have a look. Over there, that's where you can see it. They're quite small, and that looks like the V-tool. Is that a V-tool? These are lucky, yeah, because they've got the symbol on them as to what they are. So a nice V-tool. The gum that I've got over there, that's going to be power tools, which although I don't promote very much in here because the safety aspect goes through the roof. So if there are questions about power tools, I'm happy to answer them, but it's not something I'm more towards the knives. I've gone from power tools to knives. Now burrs, good thing about power tools. A lot of the saber-tooth rapid wood removal burrs. I don't have one right here. I do have some other bits and bobs that I use. These are power tool ones. I was fortunate to get these off of a fellow carver up in Queensland. These are basically You're paying for less metal. Yes, absolutely. I haven't used them very much yet, but I find that the scale of things I'm doing, I'm starting to use some of these other tools. Now, that basically is a gouge. It's a power gouge, if you like. So's that. They work as sounding... No, you can bugger off, dog. My dog wants to say hello. She thinks I'm talking to her. No, I'm talking to the little plastic box up here, okay? Bugger off. What do you want? Excuse me for a second, I have to pat my dog. Here we go, dog. Is that happy? Are you happy now? All right. Yeah, good girl. Scratch your backside. Yeah, okay, done. Don't go and see Blaze. Can you call her, Blaze? Please. Oh. Hello, my love. Come here. Come on. China's decided to come and join me, haven't you? You've been a pest. Yes, our puppy. She's a beautiful dog. Yes, absolutely. This video will be there for forever and a day, I suppose, including my little mouse hound who's giving me a pain in the arse because she wants a fuss. Look, see, there's a little plastic box. Say hello. Hello, hello. Hang on. Hello. Oh. Hello! Hello! Colin's losing the plot. I never had the plot in the first place. Did I? Hey? Huh, yeah, I thought so. So yes, okay. We've got the power gouges. They do exactly the same thing as the gouge, but of course on a massively faster scale and bigger. I like that I've got a lot of different burrs. I invest in tools. You can tell I'm single. Yeah, she's an absolute cutie. She's a senior bugger and walks me twice a day. She's a real pain in the arse. So yes, I've only really started using gouges since I got the skewed ones. I can put the links up where I did the 16 heads. I call them the mob, and I used the skewed gouges as well as chisels, and I used power tools. So yeah, I used everything at my disposal to do that. A 6 foot long 16 head. Well, you want to go down now? Can I put you down? Will you bugger off and stop scratching my leg out of sight? No? Okay then. All right then, I will. I'll put you down. Here we go. Off you go. Here you go. She just wants to a little bit of exposure. Oh, she's a beautiful dog. Anyway, don't you gouge me with your feet just because I'm talking to gouges. A little more coffee. Now, I've tried a few things because I'm doing the group. I expanded a few things, and I saw a cheap set of chisels, and unfortunately I've left them outside, so they're rusting just from the air. I bought a cheap set of chisels, cheap and nasty, 4-piece wood chisel set. I thought, okay, if I'm bashing these with a hammer onto gum, they're not going to last very long. I'll give them a go. I'll practice sharpening on them because they're crap. If I can get crap sharp and I can keep crap sharp, then I've obviously learned how to sharpen. Very, very good way. These were $28, I think, for 4. There's a quarter right the way up to 3/4 of an inch, 6mm up to 20mm, 18mm, something like that. They're not very good. They need sharpening. Piece of crap. But I tried them because the easiest way to let people know is through experience, and for those that think that they're going to get away with being able to buy a cheap set and that be adequate, well, it depends on what you're carving. I'm sure with a mallet and on the gum, these are going to come in handy. So I'm not disappointed I bought these, but I would have spent I'm probably $300 to $400 worth of tools in 8 months. where I've just collected. I didn't go out and buy a big set of files. The idea of buying a 20-piece set for $1,400 just scared the living daylights out of me. I can see that it's much better to add a tool step by step as I need a tool. Yeah, do they? They get covered in chips. It's easier to buy one tool or two tools when I realise I need them. Its need dictates rather than me going, okay, I'm going to go and buy the best set, and then I've got 20 chisels in front of me or 20 gouges in front of me, and I haven't got a clue how to use them. Kind of, that's how I started. I did have the benefit of the experienced people in the group. They helped me no end. That information came up little bit by little bit. Now, buying chisels, buying gouges. If you find that you've got you really like carving, then putting a little aside, buying one chisel when you need it, it's a good thing. I have 3 V tools. I've got a 1mm, a 2mm, and a 5mm. And for the time being, I won't need any more V tools. They're more than adequate. But what I did do was I bought. Okay, there's that one there. Yes, the first number is the sweep, and it's written on the on the blade there as well. Oh, don't drop them. That's the last thing I want to do. Did you see how quick I was at catching that one, or was that off screen? I will check later. Now this is a D3. D defining that it's a specialised series, and they're smaller than the normal files, but bigger than a palm tool. I'll talk about that in a minute. That's a D5. That's a D3. That's a 3mm. That's a 3 sweep, and that's a 5 sweep. But they're both 8mm. Now, I could do with maybe a couple of quarters, 6mm, 5mm, something like that. But in that little set, I just happen to have one, and in the flex cut set, I've got they've got one. So slowly you can build up. Not file with a PF. File means arrow in German. Files, proper files. They come in handy so much for smoothing off and cleaning up work. Oftentimes the knife, you will end up with lots of cuts if you're not careful. Same with the gouges. The gouges, as Brett said, if your gouges are sharp, it will virtually polish the wood. It'll come out looking very burnished, very, very, very smooth for a nice sharp one. Look, bugger off, dog. Don't need you here. She's been a pest today. So, when do you use them? Well, okay, the gouges are useful because not only do they do quite a big sweep. That's quite for digging in quite deep. That's an 8. Normally, like the 5s and the 3s, I went lower sweep. Now, where is it? Piece of wood. Now, if I want to dig out, that gives me a nice channel, as you can see. That gives me a nice channel. But these are also incredibly useful for files and rasps. I bought a cheap set of Chinese rasps, and they're all different shapes. They are useful but rough. As you go from rasp to file, it's basically you're going from rougher to smoother. Then you end up with sandpaper, of course. I did see somebody a while back, somebody that ended up leaving the group, was saying that, well, if you're using a file, it's not carving anymore. Well, tools are tools are tools. It's the end result that we want, and however you get there is up to you. Now, one of the things that these are brilliant for is if you want to round off, it's hard because I'm not holding this as I would properly hold it, but say for a nose, you can end up going on the outside, and you end up with a nice smooth. Now that's dug in because I'm not using it properly, and it's a much bigger sweep than I should be using. But basically you can see there that if you want to do, say, the part of the nose, these a gouge swung round so that it's working opposite to the way you think it works. Nice rounding off feature, really, really handy. So what have I done with it? Oh, there it is. I also have in my bucket, I have, talking of rasps, as you can see, I have a rasp. I use these a lot on the really big, on my bigger carvings, more so than the small stuff. The small stuff, gouges, sandpaper, what are they called? Jeweller's files. Where are we? Things hide in here, I can't see them for looking. This wasn't a very good idea. All I did was I used a hot glue gun and stuck a whole load of tubes together, and what I should have done was put a handle and a base on it, and I could have lifted them out, and then I could have seen what that would have worked. But yes, like jeweller's files, very, very handy to get into small spaces. As you can see, these are grubby because I use them, and also normal, conventional carpenter's chisels. You have skewed. Let's have a look. Excuse me for being disgusting again. I'm having a smoko while I'm doing this, or a coffee break as we call it. Come on, open. It's hard with a glove on. Okay, the gloves. Very, very handy. I'm so punny. The gloves are really good, but then if you are typing, they're not so good. So if you see any of my typos, maybe I've still got my glove on. They don't have much in the way of grip. You can buy ones that do have grip. I bought a cheap chef's glove there, so this isn't one of the ones with the chain link on the outside, but basically a butcher or a fish filleter or whatever, that's the glove. It's got all the pores so that your hands can breathe, but of course it's got stainless steel woven into it. That will save me from a slicing cut, but not a stab. I use it all the time since I cut that little finger down to the bone. Fortunately, I didn't hit any when I sliced down to the bone on that finger down that way, I was lucky because I didn't hit anything critical. I didn't even hit particularly a nerve bank. So I was able to seal it with super glue, and within a week it was it stuck to itself and was growing back, and then within 2 weeks, it's the quickest, deepest wound I've had that basically within about 2 weeks my finger had healed, and it's probably the quickest that I've ever had a healing. But then I just used super glue and I sealed it. I got next to no blood. It was a really deep cut. I've got lovely anyway, gloves. We know about gloves and we know about safety. Don't use them if you're using power tools with a spinning burr, because if the burr catches them, it will pull the burr into your hand. So gloves when you're using knives and gouges, not so much gloves when you're not. They're different types of glove, really, it comes down to. Brett's brought up a good point, is that grippy ones can discolour the wood. Yeah. Especially when you're using such clean white wood. That's a piece of gelaton. Bloody lovely. But I do have I've discovered a love. I don't know if it's the same because of where basswood grows. You get different varieties. I've got some basswood inside that's old and dry, and that's absolutely shit. I don't like it. I've used minimum. I did a couple of the small challenges with it, and that's one of those bags of little offcuts that costs a fortune for a small amount, and it's very dry. But I do see like John Overby's he has access to basswood locally, and he's in the area where the basswood is beautiful, the northern part of the states. The southern basswood, well, of course, they get you've got different between oh look, masks when you're sanding. Yes, you must, because a lot of the wood that we use, if you start going exotic, well, any wood, sawdust is going to be an irritant to the lungs, but there's also poisonous ones. Don't start doing the yellow wood. Oh, come on, Colin, think of the name of it. I've got some inside. Hedgewood. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, there's the wood database toxic link is worth a look at if you're using a different material to normal. Having a quick check at the wood database, really good idea to see the toxicity and how it affects you, what it does, and which ones not to. Pine is relatively okay. It will irritate a little bit. Canary. You're a funny bugger, Brett. Hedge apple, that's the one. What's the other name for it? Hedge apple or completely gone. It happens. God, I guess I'm getting old. Snellity, I can't remember the name of the bloody wood. Osage orange. Ha, see, I might be old, but I can get there in the end. And I'm a lot younger than a lot of you, and I'm a lot older than some of you, so yeah. Okay. Orange Osage, or Osage orange. That's the one. Oh boy, do I feel sheepish. Time to have a slip of tepid coffee. Right, now, I hope that the coverage of everybody knows, I hope that covers a lot about gouges. I will put some links up that are, well, I'll bring the file. Yeah, I need my glasses to find my glasses, which I'm wearing, or they're on the hat. That's the other thing, I put them up there. Yeah, hopefully that covers a little bit about sweeps, bevels, sharpening. In the Franklin's file was brilliant because it did cover gouges as well as look at the two YouTube. Well, there's 3 YouTube videos links in Franklin's files on stropping. They are flex cut ones, but yes. Actually, no, that I read up on that when I was researching some of the woods. Yeah, I just thrown myself completely off track. I've been doing well today. I haven't forgotten what we're talking. I am doing well. Don't you back answer me, bloody dogs. Yeah, okay, so hopefully we've covered a lot of the gouges. Franklin's file is brilliant when it comes to the coverage. He does use the flex cut because they're very clear cut. Very most of the strops that you'll see, like the slip strop, seems to be the most popular strop for gouges and things. And I mean, it was $30 for a piece of wood with a couple of bits of leather on it. I thought, I don't want to pay that much, but I want to keep my tools sharp. You have to keep your tools sharp, so an investment of such like, but that's actually profiled wood. Does it very well, cleans the inside. The videos show how to use this. G'day, Jerry. The video shows how to use the slip strop, and it shows you how to do your gouges, so it's worth watching. Even if you've seen them before or you think you know how to do it, it's worth watching. Made a couple and it makes great bows, but really test your patience. Oh look, yes, I have a piece inside that I'm going to carve a face on, and I sort of hit it and went, I'm going to do that last. and there's a couple of others there. There's potential. I've got some Purple Heart coming up fairly soon, so that'll be another face on my 26 faces, which is coming together. You'll see it soon enough. I haven't done much filming, or I haven't shown how I've done it this time, mainly because setting up the camera, setting up the room, eventually I'll have the room set up so that the camera can be where I need it to be if it's close-ups of hand stuff. These lives are going to become more informative and less waffle, so somebody else is going to do them. Because I can't help it. I get on here and it's like, well, waffle, 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 waffle. It's connecting with the group. It's making the group feel like we actually have a thing happening in the group that is relative to the subject material, i.e. wood carving. There are many people on here that could do this better than me, more informative and actually probably more accurate. But I have, yeah, it's like 11 a.m. on Saturday to do a Friday Night Live. It's kind of, you like waffles? Well, I will preamble with my chatter. So I'm going to walk while I'm doing it. No, that's not right. I'm going to walk through some subjects. Yep, okay. Now, VTools. Okay, I talked about gouges. I didn't really overly cover... and skews. That's what I got that out for. A skewed flat basically works the same as a knife. But you can get into the little tiny fine details with the tip. And it's a different angle, so instead of using it like a knife, it's using it more like a chisel. These are kind of like the skewed ones, because I suppose it's sort of, because it's skewed, it gives you more of a slice, and you have to slice while you're cutting. It's a technique that once you develop, you don't realise you're doing it, you just do it. Okay, so that was skewed blades, VTools. VTools. Let's have a look. Where's my bigger VTool? This is why I need to change. Okay, that's a 5mm. That's really it. That's a good point too. Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to show this so much because the camera's mediocre. Now, that's a 1mm, so. What's 1mm? 1/32, 1/16, something like that. That's a micro VTool, and I can't get it anywhere where you can actually. Come on, there we go. Just try and. So that's got a very, very, very sharp bottom. So when I carve, these are pencils, considered the carver's pencil. VTool. If you have a line, once you develop your line by using the tip of the V, then you can turn the VTool to slight an angle on the side, and it works like it works like a normal flat chisel, but it's guided so that you can take out one side of a line and reduce it down so that you can carve it and keep your nice crisp clear line of carving. So that's a micro one. That's a 1mm. And hair, defining the eyelid from the eyeball. Really good, the little VTools for that. Now the bigger one, that's a 5mm, so that's just under 1/4 of an inch. Now I can show better on this one that it's got a little bit more like a U than a V, although it is still a VTool. When you can get these in different angles too. 60 degrees I think is usual, but you can get 70 degrees and 90-degree ones, but they're basically two chisels like that. And when you're cleaning them and sharpening them, you treat them like individual chisel side. Sharpen one side, sharpen the other side, and that will pretty much take care of itself. Now, I was reading on one website that it said, if you got a sharp point on the bottom of your V-tool, grind it off. Well, I'm thinking, well, I've just paid $50 for a chisel. I'm not grinding the bloody tip off just because one person in one group says it. But I understood what he was talking about. The V's give you a very, very sharp cut, whereas that one actually gives you a slightly rounded cut. So when you're doing hair, John was lovely and did a video, a short live on hair, because we were seeing quite a lot of straight hair. Well, generally speaking, you do lazy S's, and you inside of those. It's a thing I'm actually working on at the moment and trying to learn how to do it. It's very difficult, and I understand and I can relate to everybody in here, because I'm still a beginner in my attitude. I can carve big things, but small things, that takes focus and attention and magnification, because my eyes are diminishing, my eyesight's diminishing, so I need magnification and I need good lighting. Setting that up in there, I'll show you that set up in the coming weeks. It's a little bit more intense by being me, by being the admin of the group. I try to learn, not only for myself, but so that I can share this information as and when I learn. I can share it with you guys, and we've got the platform, we've got the ability to make files, we've got the feed to be able to use. We're gonna be doing more of this. I will be putting out on a Wednesday night what subject material needs to be covered. Requests for information. If you have problems, post it there on a Wednesday. If it's a simple answer like flipping you to a file, I'll do that on the Wednesday. Short one of these saying, okay, what's this week? What subject material are we going to cover? I really liked the bringing up of the gouges subject. When to use them. When a knife is not enough. I advocate the KN 600 series. When anybody says to me, what's the best one for a beginner now? As I've said in here, files are like the world's best. I'm sure that they are better, but they're more available. They're probably the most available, the best set. They're very good quality still, and I love them. The Swiss do well. They've been doing it a long time. There's a history there that I might go into another time, not this time. Okay, yes, the V-tools and the gouges, and I've completely lost. Give me a second. It's kind of, it's difficult. I read and my mind goes, oh, we're talking about something else, and then what were we talking about? And I thought about having notes, but I haven't had any notes for this. I've just gone. Okay, so yeah, that's right. I'm learning. Got an itchy ear. I'm learning just as well. I'm not itchy down. Oh, I quite enjoyed that. I'm learning a lot of these things, expanding. I mean, I live in South Australia. The KN 600, thank you. The KN 600 has a cutting knife, a detailing knife, a V-tool, and a gouge. So if you are a newbie, I suggest that, not because I think flex cut are the best. I suggest that because it covers what you need. You've got the knives, and when you get fed up of the knives, or you struggle with the knives because they don't cover everything. That's why we've got the gouges and the V-tools, is to make life easier for us. By having that set, instead of going and buying a knife set, I bought the knife set and then I had to buy a gouge set. It cost me twice as much money, whereas I could have bought the KN 600 had I known about it. I would have bought that and I would have gone, oh, this is what a V-tool does, this is what a gouge does, and I've got the knives. Much more comprehensive set than just a set of knives. A 3 set of knives, flex cut do them nicely. You can get some of the carving jacks, you can get the fold up ones for your pockets. I haven't tried any of them yet. They are way too expensive for me to buy just so that I can say on here, oh, I've used this and it's adequate. I am investing in proper tools first. If I find I have a need for one that I can drop in my pocket and carve everywhere. We do have laws here that you're not allowed concealed weapons, and if you have a knife in your pocket, it's considered a concealed weapon. So that's a little bit more difficult here, but that's different rules in different places. Now, so KN 600 for the beginners. That's probably the best idea. The flex cut do different sets. The micro. Oh, that's right. I was talking to one of the members, and we were discussing micro tools. Now, flex cut sell micro tools in sets. Now, they do. The sets are V tools, like micro V tools and micro gouges. Two different sets. So you can't buy a dual set that's got, say, 2 V-tools and 3 gouges. They don't do it. They're stingy buggers, and they want the maximum dollar, so they sell 2 individual sets. It covers from, in our world, it's 1 mil to 5 mil, so under 1/4 of an inch and down, 5 of them. The sets are about, here they're about $130 each. Remembering that the American dollar is 75 American cents buys 1 Australian dollar, so when I say that my amount, it's about 3/4. You pay a lot less because you don't have shipping added on top of that as well. But they're about $130 for 5 micro chisels. So I'd have to spend $260. Call it 200 American dollars for the 2 sets, for 10 of the flex cut micro sets. Now, I don't do enough hair, and I don't do enough. Yes. Files sell 2 micro sets as well. Okay. I bought the V tool, the 1mm V tool, and that is one of the micro sets. So you can buy them individually. If you know what sizes you need, that's the way to go. If money's not an issue, then just buy both sets. If not, take your time. Learn what tools you need. Find where there's an inadequacy and fill that gap with the tool that you need. But do the research first. Read up on it. Ask the questions in the feed. Ask the experienced carvers, because they'll tell you that they bought a set and there's 3 of the tools of the set that they never use, because that's the way it works. Okay, I think I've pretty well covered gouges and V-tools. Any direct questions? That's probably the easiest way. I know there's only 16 of you looking at the moment, but later on other people will watch this, and any questions that you feel like popping on here, pop on, and over the next couple of days I will see if somebody requests any answers, and I'll provide that, or the people that know better than me. I'm not the greatest knowledge in the group. I'm just the person that desires to learn, so I'm cramming in as much information as quickly as possible so that I can fulfill the needs of the group. It's the best I can do. I still got to have a life, still got to do other things, so the group, I can't be on the group like I used to be, 14 hours a day, like all my waking hours except for the dog walk. I will still cover the group a lot of hours. I am around. I do use the computer if I'm near it. I will always have. In fact, my browser starts up with 3 pages. I have Google. I have. Oh, that's a good question. I've only tried the one Helvey, and I absolutely adore it. It's got an angled blade. Fortunately, an experienced carver, Steve Fowler, he said, "Oh, at our club they're selling some of their spares." Now, this is a down angled. It points slightly downwards. The handle is like a flex cut, but it's a little bit meatier, and I find that is a really, really comfortable knife to use for hours. It's the one I went for. They've got such a range of customized handles that you've got to look. I can assure you, if you go, the difference between my flex cut one, which isn't here, that's on, I've got that inside. Okay. This is inch. My flex cut one is 1.5 inches. That half an inch difference, I get a lot more capacity for detailing. That one, I much prefer this to the flex cut one. I was lucky, an experienced person found it and said, would you be interested? I said, yes, please. Unfortunately, the bank stung him, which was a real bugger. That one, I didn't intend to cost anybody anything, but unfortunately it did. Okay, yes, absolutely wonderful. I was in love with flex cut until I met Helvies. I don't have the access that you guys have. I can't. A lot of the knife manufacturers do not ship to Australia, so unless I link through somebody that I know personally, to get these things and get them sent to me is difficult. So I think that I'm done. Any questions you can pop up here and I will look at them, but I'm basically done. You've had enough of my waffle already. Okay. Hopefully I've been informative enough. It's very hard to juggle all of it in your head and have a live feed. The lives are very difficult. Last week I mentioned that I was nervous before coming on. Today I walked the dog. I had 9 minutes when I got back to shit, grab my tools, put them outside, make sure I've got some chalk so I can use the chalkboard. Panic! And then, am I in the group? Yay! Well, I love the group. It's a wonderful place to be. You guys and my friends. I don't have local friends very much. I don't interact with people in the world. Cool. This feels like new family. This is the way that I guess tech is bringing us together, enabling us. Not having somebody that can say, that leans over your shoulder and say you're doing that wrong. Here's the instructions. We've got to adapt to the new way of doing things, and this is the way that we've got. So this is what we do. I hope you all have a good day. Notice I kept my bald spot fairly well covered. I love my hat. I've got to carve some teeth so I look like I've killed a couple of crocodiles, so that you can call me Crocodile Braveheart. Doesn't have the same ring, does it? Well, when all you have is remote friends, then your world is filled. I'm fortunate to be globally friends with so many of you. We're going to do this next week. Hopefully we'll have a meaty subject to discuss. It's difficult. What do we talk about? Woods, knives, files, sandpapers, finishing. And there's a whole lot of personal preferences, personal opinions on those. So we're going to call it quits. Safe and happy carvings to you all. Have a lovely evening and utilise the weekend to get some carvings done and up on our feed, because that's what we're here for. Adios, my friends. If it'll bloody turn off. Come on.